students, how are you doing today? Hope you are resting very well. All right, welcome to Cradle2Harvard online class. My name is Mr. Chris, and I'm your physics teacher. And we shall be looking at the topic, electric field, that is current electricity. Now, by the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain primary and secondary cells. And secondly, you should be able to identify and mention examples of primary and secondary cells. Now let's go into the lesson proper. Now, production of continuous charges. You say a continuous flow of charge is produced from the primary and the secondary cell. And let's start. What is the primary cell? You say a primary cell or battery is the one that cannot easily be recharged after one use and are discarded following discharge. What is it saying? It is that battery that once you use it once, you cannot recharge it anymore. Are we together? It also went on to say these cells are not chargeable because the electrode reactions occurs only once. It's called a non-reversible chemical changes. And after the use over a period of time, the batteries become dead and cannot be reused. Are you following? So the discharge rate is lower than that of the secondary cell. That is to say, a primary cell takes time for you to be exhausted, for you to discharge all the charges compared to a secondary cell. Then we look at a secondary cell. What is a secondary cell? It's a secondary cell or battery is one that can be electrically recharged after its complete discharge. That is to say, if you finish using it and it's dead, you can recharge it. You can bring it back and still use it again. I believe as I'm saying this, you'll be an example will be coming into your mind. Now I say it is recharged by passing current through the circuit in the opposite direction to the current during discharge. That is to say, if current is flowing from A to B during discharge, for you to recharge it from B to A. A typical example of a secondary cell is your phone battery that you recharge all the time. Now, so it is also called an accumulator. So when you hear the word secondary cell or you hear the word an accumulator, they mean the same thing. And they say secondary cell have a quick discharge rate and need to be recharged again and again. Just like I told you, primary cell can be discharged slowly, while secondary cell, on the other hand, discharges very fast and you need to recharge it again and again. Now, examples of primary cell. The first one, they say there are three types of primary cell, three types. The first one is the simple cell. The second one is the Daniel cell. And the third one is the Leclanche cell. We are going to be discussing this in detail in our next class. Don't forget. Then let's look at examples of secondary cells. There are two types of secondary cell. We'll have the lead acid accumulator, and then we'll have the alkaline or nickel ion accumulator. This also we'll be discussing further in our next classes. Now, let's look at the differences between primary and secondary cell. The primary cell and the secondary cell, from my explanation, you must have gathered a lot of differences. But let's look at these few ones on the board. It's a one. Primary cell have high energy density and slow in discharge, and it is easy to use. I've said that before. And it says, while for the secondary, they are smaller energy density. There are smaller energy density, and as such, it discharges faster than the primary cell. The second one says there are two fluids in the cell. There are no fluids in the cells. Hence, it is also called a dry cell. Why that of the secondary? They are made up of wet cells. The wet cells are flooded and liquid cells, as well as molten salts. And the molten salts are liquid cells with different composition. So you should also always know that while your primary cell is a dry cell, your secondary cell is a wet cell. And finally, it says the primary cell has an irreversible chemical reaction, whereas the secondary cell has a reversible chemical reaction. So these are the differences between your primary and your secondary cell. Now, I have some assignment for you. Number one says, mention any other two differences between primary and secondary cells. I believe I've given you three. I want you to mention two on your own. Make your research and give me two extra examples of the differences between primary and secondary cell. Number two says, name the two advantages which a lead acid accumulator has over a primary cell. This is just to enable you to read ahead of the class. This is a senior class and you need to be serious with your studies. This brings us to the end of our class today. I want to believe you've enjoyed the class and I want to believe you've understood everything that has been taught. Thank you so much for your time and I'll see you in the next class. Have a nice day.